What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Binge Empire and our coverage of Alien Earth. So this is going to be episode 5, In Space, No One, ... which I believe is supposed to end Can Hear You Scream, which is one of, or rather the first of many nods to the original Alien film. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this, but if you're audio listening, you obviously can't see it, that it's just the two of us. So it's just me, Kyle, and Paul here for this episode. So Luke is kind of our resident Alien fan, knower of things, let's say. So I will do my best from a little bit of research that I did. I've also seen Alien, the movie, so a little bit easy on the research there, but just to kind of call out as many of those nods to the original film that I can throughout this episode, but also perfect opportunity if you want to join the conversation in the YouTube comments, or you can join our Discord to kind of continue to talk Alien. Instead of us just talking at you, you can talk with us. So the best way to do that is going to be Discord, but also the YouTube comments work just as fine. But Luke is not here because his tummy hurts. And to our knowledge, no contact with an alien life form, just a good old fashioned tummy ache. So he should be back for episode 6. And before I keep talking on end, Paul, how about we just have a little bit of a general conversation about how you felt about the episode?
I I loved it, right? After all my I want what happened on the ship, at the end of every episode, it felt like episode was for me. It I was a little disappointed with the safety precautions of some of the lab. Well, I guess we'll get to that, but nothing crazy. I think it was still it was a fun mystery. I mean, Detective Morrow on the case immediately. That was a lot of fun to just watch him go about the business, as the security officer, chief of security. Forget his official title, but I thought it was a fun mystery for us already knowing how it ends, aka which is the ship crashes. So got all the answers, but I did miss Wendy and the boys. So I will be looking forward to seeing them next episode. But
Totally fair. I'm trying to avoid recency bias, but I think this might be my favorite episode of the season so far. It's just purely a love letter almost to the original movie. And I think Noah Hawley, who is the show writer, creator, runner, whichever noun you want to use at the end of that, directed this episode purposefully. I believe, I don't remember if he said it on the official podcast or just through an additional means of like, I had to direct this episode because it's literally an alien movie and I wasn't going to write an alien movie and not direct it myself. So I just really enjoyed it. It's such a like it's so similar, but it's also perfectly different in that it fits within the context of the show so well, where we have the other alien life forms that add an even higher level of creepiness and mystery and intrigue, but we still have the xenomorph, in the HVAC tunnels. Not the right way to say that, but that's the way it came out and all of that stuff. So it felt so much like the movie, and it got a lot done. I felt like in the hour, even though it's maybe not necessarily advancing the plot of the TV show so much, because technically these events have already happened through the episodes that we've already watched. But I found it incredibly entertaining. I thought it was unbelievably well shot. I have no credentials to comment on things like cinematography or direction or anything like that, but even I found myself looking at scenes and just being like, this is so cool. Like there were so many scenes that were just like built to, increase the tension. One with we have Malachi and Shmuel, the engineers, and they're kind of fixing something. And instead of getting Malachi, we get like his reflection on the wall. And then we see the chain drop down, and it was just like, oh baby, what's gonna happen? But it's almost kind of like a harmless jump scare in a way. Like it's just, I loved this episode. I'm quite excited to talk about it.
yeah, and it did feel like its own movie, like you said, hour long. If they could edit this season a couple of shots from, the first episode here and there, but just make another movie right here. Say, hey, if you don't feel like watching the whole show, here's a quick little.
Seriously.
So I loved it. We got obviously a ton of Morrow, which, this episode was basically all about him. He is one of the characters that we've been struggling to nail down about how we feel about him. Um, Kyle, assuming you listen to Luke and I chatting last episode, we were pretty down on him. We thought, hey, he's using the family as blackmail. You know, he seems to be past the point of, return. He's got to be a bad guy. But now we get a little bit about his daughter. Year 8 of 65, we find out that his 19-year-old daughter dies, and now he's dedicated to the mission. We also learned he had a previous relationship with, Utani, the present Utani's great grandmother or grandmother, actually. So, Kyle, question for you. Time to play America's favorite game. Is Morrow good?
I would say no, but I don't know how much that's even like the point. I feel like when I think about him as a character, I'm not really so interested in the morals of what's going on. I enjoyed that we got more backstory of kind of all of this conflict, this internal conflict within him. I think that's why I gravitated so much to him. It was episode, I guess it was 2 or 3. They always, when you get this far, they kind of start to blend together slightly. But when he's talking about kind of what he gave up to become the cyborg, and the fact that we see in this episode that he feels very cold, calculated. It's just, these are the protocols. It's what's got to happen. But it seems like it, in the current day, quote unquote, in a way, like it was eating him up. Doesn't really show at all, I would say, in this episode that he's kind of emotionally impacted by what's going on. Although maybe you could argue at the end with the way that things go down. But I just really enjoy everything about him, his story. I think he's definitely doing things that you would say are morally wrong, especially with Slightly's family, I think for sure. But to me, it's just like, this is kind of a broken man. I don't want to use man in quotations, but it's kind of necessary in this case. But he kind of has to do all of this stuff to show that, like, going on this mission and going down the path that he's gone down is worth it. He's lost his daughter. He has no one. The mission is really all that he has. And it kind of has to be worthwhile for him not to, I would assume, like, fall into this just like total pit of despair and regret over never having to see his daughter again. So I find him slightly sympathetic. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's good in any way.
I was trying to word that question for a while. I was like, is Morrow is he justified? Is Morrow like right in what he's doing? Basically, I was trying to figure it out. Because like, you're right. Like, if we're looking at it from his perspective, like, we didn't know Prodigy at all. I'm like, yeah, he's the good guy. Like, but he's just doing his job. He's doing what he needs to be done. Apparently, he has something with Utani. They have more of a background together. The grandmother actually took him in. Seems like she gave him the cyborg arm, and helped him out. And he has this feeling that he needs to repay her, which is just straight up loyalty, which is rare in this day and age. So I guess he's not good because of what he's doing, but I guess he's a good character, like you said, for so many reasons. And I love that we got a little bit of his backstory here before he goes straight detective mode.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a lapdog for a $1 trillion company that thinks that they deserve to control a part of the earth. Like, you're already in a moral quandary at that point. You're kind of starting 10 feet down.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes.
Yeah. And I think he's just like, when he wakes up, he's getting so much thrown at him, and he's able to just like take a note for every single one. I needed to pause and rewind like 4 times just to get all the notes right. And he's able to just be like, okay, why is nobody concerned about the fire? He's like, you guys are stupid for not like thinking that is not issue number 1. Like, okay, I get we got other stuff going on, but he is so on the case. I loved seeing how he just operated, him going to the security tapes, one by one, working down suspects. And I don't know. I was a little upset when he looks on the security tape and he sees the saboteur and it looks like they have hair, and then he's still questioning Mr. Tang. And so,
yeah, no, that's actually fantastic point that I did not think of. The one thing that, if we're gonna go on things that upset me with him, was, and it turns out to be not that big of a deal because the fire was deliberately set, but why are we dropping a lit cigar down into the ship? I thought that was such a funny decision. I mean, it's, what do you want to call it? Maybe like a classic like thing to do, and like it looks cool. But I was like, dude, what are we doing right now? Like, fire is your main current concern, and you're just actively dropping a lit cigar into, you're not even entirely sure what's down there. So I was like scratching my head at him, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, that was fun. I guess he's like, hey, can't get any more broken, right? So what is this gonna do?
That's fair. That's totally fair.
But in that scene too, he was looking at the flora slash fauna specimen. We still have not seen that come into play at all. So is that just another one that they scooped up, or is it actually going to come into play? I hope it does.
Yeah, I feel like they all will in different ways. Obviously, they're really, I mean, come on, it's Alien, so the xenomorphs will obviously play a leading role in all of that. The eyeball, the eye, whatever you want to end up calling it, seems like second on the call sheet in terms of the aliens.
Mhm.
But I think that thing that was hanging from the ceiling, even, I know these like the blood ticks, the little chitterbugs, played a big role this episode, but I feel like they're not completely done either. So there's a lot more to come with these things, and they just are incredibly creepy and terrifying. And this whole episode was me just like, oh, like there was so much of that going on, just that noise coming out of my mouth.
Oh man. Well, like we'll just talk about it now. But when the tick lays the egg in the water of Chibuzo's drink, and they kept teasing us like she was
Oh
going to
my
drink from it
God.
like 7 times, and it ended up being malachite. I was like, come on, why the funny young guy?
I literally wrote in my notes, mouth is wide open and it's splunking into the water. Just not at all what I thought it was going to do. I just, and then it's in the sandwich, and it's like, oh my God, I can't watch this. Like, it was just, it was so bad. So many things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, oh my God, like it's supposed to make you want to like stand up and squirm, but like also the suspense was crazy. So good job. It did feel like a horror movie, this
Oh
this
yeah.
whole time. That was some of Chibuzo's lackluster lab safety. I get you're in there for, quite a while, 65 years or whatever, but like maybe don't have food and water right next to the live specimen. That just seems like something that we talk about. And even that when Raheem came in and picked it up and dropped it back in, she still doesn't close
Yeah.
a latch and is just looking right down at it. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, she was, I mean, yeah, maybe your procedures feel lax after decades potentially, but also I think too, a part of the commentary of, I think, Alien as a series, the ethos behind it, and also one of the reasons, one of the main reasons, let's say, that Petrovich ends up being kind of the saboteur, is that, like, the protocols in place are mostly to protect the cargo versus the human beings,
Yeah.
but they're also not doing themselves rather many favors with the decisions that they're making. And Raheem actually even calls it out. I know it's kind of more of a commentary on, like, again, the cargo is more important than the people, when he's like, human beings, like the smartest, stupidest species, or whatever he ends up saying. Like, we build rockets, we go to the stars, and then we do whatever we can to bring a parasite back to Earth with us. And
Yeah.
we see how that's working out.
Yeah, for the smartest people, is that the smartest decision? So
Yeah.
I liked Raheem. He was a really cool character. But Petrovich, you brought him up. He was interesting because we didn't really get him, but he ends up being like the catalyst that starts everything. He was the saboteur. I did like how Morrow found him out, that it was Clem repairing the audio logs because, obviously Petrovich sabotaged them and destroyed them all. Finally, they were recovered, and finally Mara was able to jump into it and find the conversation between Cavalier and Petrovich, which blew me away. Cavalier fooled me in the first episode. The way he reacts to the ship crashing in his territory. Uh, Apparently, he knew this was coming. This was all planned. He said, I'll give you whatever you want. I actually wrote down the quote and I have to find it because it is so absurd. And we were talking about how Cavalier like already thinks of other people as ants. Well, he says to Petrovich, if you can land the ship in my kingdom, then you will be the richest man in whatever cousin marrying shithole valley you fuck cows in. It's like, all right, thanks, boy Cavalier.
Also, not a real offer in any sense. They've established that they can't transfer consciousness for adults at this point. So he's completely lying to him at this point. At least that's the way I'm interpreting it. So, yeah, I mean, if we didn't really need a ton more evidence that Cavalier is a scumbag, but a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, and he made a reference about like, the boy genius, me, like he's obsessed with the fact that he's a kid and a genius. And like you said, bogus offer. He says, I want a new body. And Cavalier's like, oh, yeah, we can talk about that. But I'll tell you what, you'll be rich when you get here. So he knew basically that. I wonder, because he said the specs, if these specs are correct and you can land the ship here. So I don't know if he was always expecting like a crash landing or what. But either way, didn't matter. I'm sure he was expecting it to be dirty, and it was dirty. Petrovich didn't even make it because Clem and Morrow are going to the control room after the explosion in the control, like the other control room, which like destroyed all the fuel cells. And it was just like incident after incident because Malachite was in the med bay, and then Raheem tried to pull the bug off. They died by the poison. And then right into got to go in the control room and try to get us in a geosynchronous orbit. Like, this is what I was talking about when Morrow is just like, okay. And he just yanks that captaincy from Zavari and is like, you had your time. It didn't work out. I'm taking that.
It's kind of an interesting, not a juxtaposition potentially of between the first movie where Ripley is kind of the second in command. So after the captain dies, then she's in charge, and she kind of is the one that gets shit done. She's the one that ends up surviving and all that. And it's almost the opposite here, where Zavari is kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say useless because that's aggressive, but totally shell shocked. Does not, she does not have her Mrs. October moment. It was her moment to step up to the plate, and she went down without even swinging, I would say. I mean, she swings maybe a little bit at the end of her life, but just kind of a tough scene for her. And then, she has the extra added grief of the Bronski and her were kind of banging. They were a little bit in love and all that stuff. But yeah, she just couldn't really make any decision that needed to be made. I also loved when Mara's kind of interrogating her a little bit, and he says the quote where she's like, I'm still the captain, and he kind of hints at like, hey, if the right things are said, essentially, then like I can just take over everything. And she's talking about, talking to mother and the computer, and he just kind of says, you talk to the computer, I talk to Yutani. And it's just like, okay, that's just the big dog right there. He just whips that out. And I mean, you can't get any higher than Yutani.
Yeah, he was like, I take the orders directly from her.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, Zavari was trying to big dog him and be like, oh, okay, you want to talk about captaincy? Let's go talk to mother. Which he's just like, dude, that's bad. That's swinging too low. You got to swing higher. And right after that was this line where he's like, the cargo's the most important thing. Not you, not me, not the fucking cat. And I was like, well, I got to bring the cat into it, man. Come on.
Shout out to Jonesy. Although we do know that the cat goes down eventually
in a horrible fashion.
Yeah.
But which I started explaining, which never got to. Eventually, Morrow and Clem find Petrovich. Petrovich kills Clem, and Morrow says, "Screw you," and stabs him right in the back. But Petrovich has this like weird villainous, like, I don't care that I died moment. Like, he's basically saying, like, they want their monsters. Here they come.
Love that line.
Which was menacing, but like, was he just like, when he was talking to Cavalier, he was saying that his woman, I want to say wife, went on this mission with him and got eggs laid in her eyes. So is this him just going mad after 65 years in the mission? Is like, screw these guys. They don't look out for me. So why am I going to look out for them?
Yeah, I think he's just so anti the corporation. He's so cynical, it seems like at this point, and he's just kind of like, you know, they are making this decision that the cargo is more important than anything else. Like they want this stuff so bad, but they actually have no idea what it means for these things to be on Earth. So like if they want it that bad, like, you know, be my guest essentially.
Okay.
Because it's not going to end particularly well. I don't know if it'll lead to, you know, that destruction, annihilation of Earth, but I think there's going to be some complications on it starting in Neverland and maybe rippling out from there, because it's not going to be as simple as we get these things to Earth and we kind of contain them. I feel like.
No, definitely not. Especially if you
Yeah.
talk to Luke. Luke is like set on the fact that almost nobody makes it out of this, and the Earth will be basically a wasteland. So definitely could
Wouldn't
be
be
a possibility.
crazy.
Yeah.
This was another example too of again where these additional aliens add such an element of intrigue and thrill of when Morrow and Clem go into the one science lab that's not the zoo, or maybe it is the zoo, and we know at this point that the eye is out and about, and we also know that maybe the blood ticks are out and about, and they're just like in the room, and it's, you know, it's a shootout, so that's like their first thing, and that's the first thing you're thinking of. But we're all watching it like, oh my god, like I was anticipating that Clem was going to go down via one of those aliens, and you know the blood ticks get their paws on him. Thankfully for him, he was dead at that point. But just another thing of like, oh my god, there's another element of like, when is that next shoe gonna drop for these creepy critters crawling around? And also another comment on the way that it's shot, having the eye like crawl across the camera lens after like Petrovich's body was on the ground, and like that's the shot that we left with. I thought that was awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They really do know how to make you feel uncomfortable as a viewer.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. And you're totally right. When Morrow and Clem are like backing up, and their backs are to the critters, I'm expecting the eye to come flying across the room and attach. But luckily for Clem, I would say he went out I wouldn't say the quickest way, because he was shot in the leg for about a minute beforehand, which I was like, I know Morrow, you're like trying to help drag him in, but like you're
He was
half
human
using.
shielding him.
I was just gonna say you're half using him as a human shield. He's just getting popped even more. So
Yeah.
at least he went quick.
Yeah, trying to think of the other people that die relatively, and maybe the one I would sign up for. Petrovich's is like on the fence of maybe it was quicker overall, but I don't know if I'd want to be impaled like that. So
Yeah. I thought Petrovich was like a little bit of a question mark for me, but after talking about him, I guess they didn't really need to spend more time on him. You know, they gave us exactly what we needed
he was also, if I'm not mistaken, in episode 1, where we get like the hints that like they've kind of already had their own alien movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying those exact words, and it's funny that they live it almost again, where I think he is the one that says, and I should have just gone back and confirmed it, but that like we lost a lot of good people. We lost like a lot of good crew getting that stuff. So they kind of dropped that crumb there that he was, disgruntled in some way about what was happening.
Oh, yeah. He might have been the one where when they were talking about what do we need to shut down in order to save the ship, he was like, well, why don't we just toss those damn specimens? So
yeah.
that does make sense that he was given hints of, going off the deep end early. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, the only other thing with Morrow, which we kind of talked about, is he basically goes in, talks to Mother. He's like, hey, I'm the captain now. I need the crash room. And then when he meets with Yutani, he says, I promised your mother that I would bring the specimens back, and I will. So, assuming right now, this is after he threatened Slightly's family, assuming he went to visit Yutani, finally took her up on her offer and came home, quote unquote. And now this is him getting geared up because he says, unless those lawyers are soldiers, I think we're going to have to do it my way when we go in there to kill Boy Cavalier, because They have an apparition tomorrow, which they're meeting up. But seems like Utani and Morrow are not planning on delegating too much.
No, he's pretty locked in. He's kind of assigning himself head of the mission. I would agree. I mean, why not? I mean, Utani, obviously, it's a family affair, so she got there by maybe not making any decisions, just being, born. But this is kind of one of those decisions where you let it ride, where it's like, yeah, okay. You could probably look him in the eyes and be like, okay, he means friggin' business. I mean, give him 3 ninjas with guns,
dude,
and a dude that can turn his hand into a spear or a blowtorch, and we'll probably take Neverland.
I had that same comment. I was like, samurai gear with machine guns looks so funny for whatever reason.
I mean, I love it. It's just, again, those little things that like decisions you can make in TV shows. And I wonder how like much thought and time was put into like the designing those costumes and like creating them and stuff like that. So it's nice that we get to at least recognize it and notice it, because they stuck out to me. I mean, everything about that scene was cool, but they were just like, okay, whoa, I want more.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it. If I was Utani, which my grandmother told me, Mara's the fiercest man she's ever seen, and he's got this ambition of we're doing it my way, I would totally go around and just be like, hey, get this guy whatever he wants. Totally do it exactly what she does.
Do you think he's correctly calling his shot and that he's going to bring them home and kill Cavalier?
I think he's going to
clean.
I think he's going to probably, which is crazy to say, like lose sight of bringing them home midway through and like be obsessed with killing Cavalier. So he might, die from that. We are trying last episode, me and Luke were trying to parallel between Peter Pan and this show, because obviously Cavalier, and we were saying that, Cavalier might, if the species are the crocodiles, then he might be Captain Hook and succumb to the crocodile. But wouldn't it be poetic if Morrow was Captain Hook somehow, just because he has the cyborg arm?
Yeah, that would work for me.
Yeah. And, apparently maybe he meets his fate fighting, going off the deep end to kill Cavalier.
I could see it. I mean, again, to him, the mission is all, and he's kind of adding on the Cavalier part of the mission. It's really about securing the cargo. So the cargo being his undoing, him being so focused on the mission, to, in my interpretation, make it so that his daughter's death, I wouldn't go as far as to say means something, but like him not being there means something. It was maybe for something beyond just being away. Because if this mission fails, it's like, okay, I was away for no reason.
Yeah, literally. At least in this point, if he takes out Cavalier, he can be like, I went on this mission which led me to making the world a better place. And one other thing with his daughter, we did get in the letter that her belongings were just being held for him. I didn't really take note of that the first time, and I was thinking maybe we might get a shot of him getting those belongings, next episode, and reacting to his daughter all over again. But at the same time, we kind of got it this episode with the letters, so that might just be a unneeded scene there.
Yeah, I think the belonging to letters and things like that, it had the emotional impact. I also really liked the combination of, we get the scene at the end. This is what I was slightly hinting at earlier, when we had seen originally when he gets into the crash room and the xenomorph drips like the saliva onto him and he wipes it off, but we have it kind of overlaid with him like wiping the tears when he was kind of reminiscing through the memory box and things like that. And what does it mean? I don't think I'm smart enough, but I could tell that there's some there because they purposely put it on the plate. So I just, a little bit of emotional storytelling there. I just like Morrow. I'm interested.
I think you like the cinematography shots. I think that's what I'm picking up here.
Yeah. My elementary understanding of colors and what do they call it? Blocking, maybe. Is that like when things are arranged in a scene? We'll call it that. It's working for me. It's doing it,
Hell yeah. I hope we get some amazing shots later. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Uh,
Finale, I can only imagine.
oh yeah. Cinematography is going to go crazy.
Yeah.
As far as Morrow goes, I did not have too much else on him. If we just want to roll through some of the other characters real quick, just the first thoughts that pop up into your head, like Zaviri, first thought that pops up into my head. We already kind of talked about it. She reached for the captain role. She tried her best. Did a really good job in the beginning. Was trying to hold it down, be confident. Unfortunately, I think the banging and the Bronsky thing kind of backfired, and then the med bay just sent her over the edge there. But I liked her character.
Yeah, tough scenes, I think, all around. The one thing I do want to mention is like her going into Mother and like loading it up and about like the cargo stuff. Not necessarily shot for shot, but again, felt like to me a nod to the Alien movie. We have Dallas, the captain in that movie. We see him load into Mother and he's kind of typing away and all of that stuff. And it's also just nice isn't the right word, but like we get the reinforcement. She like kind of learns the truth here, where when she's talking tomorrow and she's like, well, we'll talk to Mother about all of this. And then she learns that like the cargo is number one. The crew is not important in any way beyond their just ability to get the cargo back. And that kind of completely drops any illusions that she had about what the hell was going on. And I don't think she ever really recovered from that. I said it on episode 1 or the episode 1 and 2 coverage that like it felt like she went down, just gave up. She was just like totally mentally defeated as well. She bangs a little bit on the door. She kind of accepts that Morrow's not letting her in, and then she kind of turns around and just lets herself get tossed around like a rag doll. Again, easy for me to say, laying on my couch, like fight, but like it felt like she totally just went down with a whimper, and that was the end of her unfortunate story. She, I think, had a really. I mean, we don't see how Tang goes down, but I feel like the Xenomorph really like played with her a lot.
Yeah, it was one of the worst ones, and it took way too long. Unfortunately, she was being
Yeah.
tossed around for a while. She definitely kept Mother waiting with that acknowledge. I was like, she did not want to accept it, and I guess with the emotional chaos that happened this episode, maybe we can accept why she just accepted the death at the end because she was exhausted with everything that happened. But did I miss something about the Utah dirt that she kept pouring on her hands and then on Bronsky? Was that an episode 1 thing I forget about?
I don't think it ever gets mentioned there. I mean, to me, it was just like it's a symbol of home,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I couldn't tell if it was he's from Utah or she was from Utah. Maybe they had probably made plans to, again, whether he lived there or she lived there, to go there after the mission was complete and all that stuff. And it was just kind of like that reflection of that yearning for home. We get it from Raheem as well, when he kind of just drops a little bit of his like kind of swagger in the interrogation. It's just like, I just want to go home, man. I just want to get off this ship. And clearly it don't work like that for them. But
no, he unfortunately never got off this shit. The only thing for Zaviri, and I want to say it was a nod to the original movies, but I just wasn't a big fan of the lack of urgency down the ladder when she was running from the Xeno and the slow chase, the inconsistent chase scenes. Nothing irks me more than when they show somebody 2 feet behind and then the next shot shows them 35 feet behind.
yeah, that was the one thing I wrote down. I was like, I'm not going to complain about this because I liked the episode so much that I don't want to bring this up. But also, I love the shot at the end of it. The chase scene, does it make sense time and speed wise? Probably not. But I love the shot of the Xenomorph like coming out of the hallway and her like in the left side of the screen, like trying to hold her breath and things like that. Beautiful stuff. Loved it. I'll just chalk it up to it was worth it for that. But yes, you can definitely tell sometimes where it's like, okay, sure.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever. Raheem, I think I said all I had to about him. I like the fact that he was trying to save Malachite in the end. He was just like, fuck it. I want to save this kid. But yeah, you already said it. He just wanted to go home.
Yeah, he played a huge role in this episode, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think I really liked his character a lot. So funny to me that they just smoke cigs like
Yeah.
in the med bay, in
Yeah.
the kitchen area. Like they're just ripping cigs. I mean, it is what it is. It's just funny to me. But I liked him as a character. Tough way to go out. You know, and you
Yeah.
could argue if he was a doctor, so he went out trying to save someone, so maybe that's a positive, but it didn't look enjoyable.
No, that looked him and Chibuzo. Um, speaking
Yeah.
of, upset with her as well. I don't want to put any blame out there. There was a lot going on, but she couldn't secure the damn eye to the wall, along with a lackluster lab safety of barely closing the lid. And I was a little disappointed because I thought she was going to be like the smart one of the group, which I think she is technically, but some sloppy moves, Chibuzo.
Yeah, tough scene. She helps create a lot of tension and thrill for sure. But yeah, just you can see why things went wrong. I mean, obviously the sabotage does not help in any way, but that kind of just got the ball rolling towards all hell breaking loose. Maybe they could have figured it out if it was just the xenomorph. But you're adding in these other elements, and it's we don't really stand a chance once the blood ticks and the eye is out there. So, question for you, and I saw this discussion both online and in our Discord. How are you interpreting the eye banging on its container while the kind of blood tick is like sneaking out?
I had the same thought. I don't know if it was just reacting to it noticing something going on, but you think it by it banging on the glass, it's smart enough to know that that is signaling Chibuzo. So I don't know if he was like, hey, like, don't let him escape if I'm stuck, or I don't know. I was very confused. What was your take on it?
It seemed like it was pretty split in the Discord and then also the things I was seeing on the internet of I think it's such a funny I never for a second, and this will be funny when I say what I say at the end of this, but I never for a second thought it was trying to help her. Some people were saying that it was like trying to like warn her, like, hey, they're escaping. I was always of the mind that it was distracting. I guess I'm just maybe it's our human programming. Like I'm programmed to think of these guys are, you know, the enemies, these aliens. And it seems like I think the official podcast confirmed that it was distracting.
Oh, okay.
So it was purposefully distracting her because all of that stuff then helps it escape at some point. I don't know how. I think it'll be really interesting if it wasn't super nefarious. You know, obviously it has a survival instinct and it'll go down that kind of road no matter what. And, you know, we'll get to Shmuel, but I think it would be kind of interesting if it can like communicate or like do something. There's something with it and Kirsch potentially, you know, he's kind of interested in it. I have a question for you now too, and then again we'll get to the Shmuel of it all and talk about that. But there's no way it just ends in the Lamb. Who do you think it gets to next?
See, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to get out because Curse has such a handle on things. Unless you know, we were talking about last episode, Kirsch kind of wants the downfall to happen. He wants slightly to bring somebody in and set chaos on. Who's the eye going to go to next? I don't know, but I'm going to stand by that. If you have an eye, it's still going to try to attack you, even though it attacked the xenomorph. But it did not seem to be able to attach itself to the xenomorph too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it seems like if it has an eye, it's gonna get in you somehow. But I do want to retract my other statement that I had last episode. I was like, hey, maybe it's going to be so intelligent and the gamma radiation is going to be able to take over the brain of a hybrid and like take control of the machine. I kind of want to pump the brakes on that one because when he took over on Shmuel, I was kind of expecting what you were wanting. I was wanting him to like communicate and say words, use the body to do more things than just guttural squeaks. But it just kind of ran at Zavari, which I was like, dude, this eye is more scary and menacing when it's not in a body, when it's not taking something over.
You know, it's funny too with the knocking her out again with these people that were looking at it sympathetically. Well, they were like, well, it knocked her out so that she didn't feel fear, so that the xenomorph like wouldn't attack her. And like, I never thought that, but it is funny that you could convince yourself
I've
of that.
to be honest, the first time I watched it, I had quick thoughts of when it tapped on the glass, like, oh, is it trying to help? Is it trying to be the bad guy? Oh, it escaped, but it still hasn't taken anybody over yet. Maybe it is trying to help our guys. But then, we see Shmuel, and it just kind of doesn't do anything unless it didn't have time to learn how to talk. But like, no, it's
Yeah.
I assume it's evil and going to just kill whatever.
And it's pretty ballsy. I feel like going after the xenomorph is pretty ballsy. Obviously, the humans, the xenomorph, it has some intelligence. It's evaluating potentially hosts and things like that. It wants to get to the xenomorph, it seemed like, but it couldn't. I thought it was hilarious that it has Shmuel try to bite the
Oh yeah.
xenomorph because it's like humans don't really work like that as
Mhm.
well as maybe the xenomorph does. So it's maybe not totally understanding so much the host or whatever it may be, but this is just a shot that I'll just shoot out there because why not? But I feel like I can just picture a shot with Boyd Cavalier's face with the
Mm,
eye in it.
that would be awesome. That'd
I
be a good
think
way to
that's
go.
gonna happen. I think that because part of his story for sure is this, he's so overestimating his own intelligence and like his ability to do things, like because he's done A in his mind, A being be a trillionaire and create this company with the human consciousness transfer and stuff, that he can naturally do B, C, D, E, F, G. And I feel like the eye, they made the point that it's intelligent, it's looking at him, he's kind of antagonizing it. We know that he's fairly fast and loose with the protocols. He's like putting his head over the egg and stuff,
Mhm.
and Kirsch has got to bring him back. And I think he's totally gonna underestimate the eye for sure. And I think that's what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen after that. I guess at that point he's dead, but it showed some kind of an ability to make the host speak in a way. I mean, Shmuel, it seemed like some people were interpreting that it was calling the xenomorph back,
Mm.
but it
But
would
then
be
they fight.
interesting. Yeah, that like if the eye can kind of replace Boyd Cavalier's like prized possession, which being his mind, and like take it over and like be smarter than him. This like little creature that he would never ever give the time of day to, let's say, in a way of
Mhm.
thinking about it intelligently, but it actually kind of gets the upper hand on him and it is his demise. I feel like that could be somewhat like a full circle story there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He's basically killed by his own hubris. And if you asked me that last episode, I would say I'm totally on board. I'm pulling back a little bit now on after the eye takes control about what it actually can do, because I'm
Yeah.
like last episode I was like sky's the limit, but after this I'm like okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe the eye needs some more time in the host to be able to do some more advanced things. But I would love it. I would definitely love it because if it takes over somebody as smart and powerful as Cavalier that has the resources and access, and it's like can just start doing things, that would just lead to yeah, like a cataclysm. It would be the end.
Yeah. I could just like, him like typing away, going crazy on all his screens, and then just like the chair turns and it's just he's got like the one big bulging eyeball, and it's like, whoa. And then maybe that's Morrow gets in a fight with it, with his sword hand, his knife hand. I
Yeah,
could see it.
that would
Then maybe
probably
that's
be
too like sci-fi crazy, not grounded enough, but I could see it.
And then Morrow would have to make the decision of kill Cavalier or
Mm.
bring the cargo, the specimens home, and can't. He has to
Oh, I like it. I like it. I'm
decide.
convinced.
The Eye definitely steals the show, I feel like.
I'm convinced. I like that a lot. There's a lot of things that work there. It works enough for me to be like, yeah. I'm gonna try not to like it so much that my expectations are
Yeah,
high, and then when it doesn't happen, I feel like, oh, the show wasn't that good. But
disappointed. Yeah.
I'm really feeling myself getting behind this idea.
No, I love it. I'm definitely going to be thinking of it going forward.
Yeah.
All right, last few characters here. Shmuel and Malachite, engineer and the engineer's apprentice. Shmuel, we talked about him, just a little bit. It wasn't anything crazy. I like the way that he actually looked out for, the apprentice, the kid. At the end, he was like, yo, stop picking on him when you're docking the pay. And he was like a smart guy. I liked, his character. But yeah, he of course succumbed to the eye, so he had to look ugly, and that is the last image everybody will have of him.
Yeah, I enjoyed him as well too. I like the actor a lot. Malachi, tough scenes, brother. Just
Yeah.
mistake and fumble and mistake after mistake and fumble and mistake. I mean, it really probably couldn't have gone worse for him. Although he does catch on to the joke, the ploy to get him to split his pie in half at least.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a win. But that was like the first thing he did this episode. So it's really just all losses after that. It seemed like a horrible way to die.
Yeah.
So yeah, just tough scenes all around. But it was nice though that because we get these characters in episode 1, and it's like we just get the smallest little taste of them. And I thought everyone played at least an interesting role within this episode. I mean, even Tang,
He was next on the list. Let's just
weird guy.
dude, big old question mark. I'm so confused because Raheem called him a robot.
Yeah,
So
totally.
so he is a synth, but he smokes and apparently
Love that.
like jerks it to sleeping women, which I'm like, I don't understand his character at all. If he is a synth, but and he barely talked when he moved. It was like only his lower jaw. So I was like, all right, that does seem like a robot, but big old question mark, and we didn't even see him die. So weird character.
Yeah, the only thing I'm maybe thinking that could he have been a Utani hybrid in a way, only because like with the smoking and the sexual desires, they feel human. They don't
Yeah.
feel robotic in any way. And I'm trying to remember. I don't think the synth from the original Alien smokes. Because it's like, why would they smoke beyond maybe just it's like a cultural, like we're all together. It makes them more human in a way. But yeah, totally weird guy. Not entirely sure. What it seems like anti-synth propaganda almost is what it seems. Because it's like, what was the point? I mean, maybe we're satisfied that he dies.
I don't know
because
like he like played a part in it. Maybe he like didn't initiate any other sabotage, but like the way he was talking to Mara and was like, "It's right in front of you. You can't see it." It's like, did you just know all this going on, or did you have a part to play?
Because also, Morrow is the person that's the cargo, the mission, I wouldn't say the secret mission, but like this is the real mission, the cargo stuff. But you would assume that Tang would also, like, he's company property. He should be a company guy. You know what I mean? Like he should have a directive that's like the cargo. So why is he fucking with Morrow when Morrow's trying to figure out how to like get the situation back on track so that Weyland-Yutani is coming out on top the way that they want to with getting the cargo back. But he's like, like, you don't know. And it's like, okay, dude, should be my partner in crime in this. Like, I should be able to trust you 100%, and we should be able to do this together. But yeah, I don't know. I'm inclined to think that there's more to that, but that's probably wishful thinking. It might just be that the creepy robot pervert gets got, and we all kind of there's at least one death that we can kumbaya about.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I kind of want more Mr. Tang in the next episode. I just want to know what he's about, or maybe you're right. Maybe he's just a creep, and that's it.
Yeah, sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, grew hair when he sabotaged the ship to trick Morrow, and that's why he was still a suspect.
Yep.
But all right, last few characters here. Just anything about the Ticks. The only thing I had is like if they're still alive after the ship crash, which I assume they are like issue number 1 because they're just gonna reproduce in the water supply, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, because I don't know why I said we, but the Prodigy troops, even also the Lost Boys, get into that med bay where, even 4-6 of them were.
Mm-hmm.
Also, side note, pretty OP that you suck blood endlessly and get poison gas. That seems unfair in a way. But I guess the xenomorphs get acid blood and they're like the perfect specimen. But so yeah, I mean, theoretically, they're all, or the majority of them, should still be out there because they probably captured the 2 originals that were in the science lab that killed the Prodigy officers that got into Clem and stuff. But that seems like too obvious of something for us to think about for it not to be a thing.
Yeah. They can't just say, oh, like they died on the crash and that's it. Because we even saw that they killed the soldiers. Now I'm thinking about it, episode 1. So there are some out there.
Yeah. Well, and that was only 2, again, of the 8, I believe.
Yeah.
That we were introduced to. So we'll see. I don't know if we'll be able to see in the back of a scene coming up, and we got to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got to count, if there's 6 to 8 in whatever they're keeping them in. But if it's only 2, the radar's going off.
Yeah, no, and they creep me out the most just because they're like, I don't know, bugs that suck
I don't like
blood. I don't like them.
I don't like any of it, but yeah, I don't like them probably the most.
The face huggers / xenomorph. Anything on them? The only thing I had is it's quite a quick timeline. It seems like from busting out of the body.
Oh yeah,
to becoming a xenomorph.
That's one of like would you call it a twist maybe in the Alien movie initially when the first little guy comes out and like snakes, shuffles away. And then the next time you see it, it's fully grown and it's like, holy moly. So yeah, they, I don't know what the word would be. It's not gestate, but they mature very quickly right into that perfect organism that can even survive in the vacuum of space.
We did get
they mentioned. Yeah. And I was, again, this is so tinfoil hat and like looking at everything you could possibly look at, but they jettisoned the captain.
Is that what that was? Okay.
His acid bath. And that was also kind of a funny is not the right word again, but callback to the original movie because they try that too in the original movie where they try to make a little incision to get it off of the guy's face and then it drips the acid blood through the floor. The captain was unlucky enough. Well, I guess you were either going to die with your chest bursting open or acid burning a hole through your neck. But theoretically, he's already been impregnated with the xenomorph and he's out in space now. So, like, is that one just going to go into hibernation and bide its time? Is that Alien Earth Season 2?
Well, they dropped the line, and you already brought it up. Chibizo says, we already know they can survive the vacuum of space, so I'm sure they could survive the cryopod. Why throw that in if that's not going to come in later? And that's funny. I had a note. I was like, what was ejected from the ship? I was like, they just show it real quick. So if it's the captain, that makes a lot of sense. And, the thought popped into my head. If something's there, I doubt it's going to go to Earth because they're still 17, 15 days away from it at this point, but it's going to go somewhere and it's going to be an issue.
That's maybe the writers throwing themselves an alley-oop of here's Season 2. It makes sense. We get the opening scene and it's just that gets captured into a ship and it's like, what's this?
Yeah. Could be.
I could see it. That's probably never going to be a thing, but I'll mention it because on the off chance it is, people can be like, wow, that Binge Empire podcast. They don't really know much about Alien, but they did call that.
And the Eye. I mean, we already talked plenty about the Eye. I don't think I have anything else to say besides I can't wait to see who takes over next.
No, yeah. That one thing I was going to bring up was the Boy Cavalier thing. So I'm quite satisfied, I think, with our coverage of the Eye.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up this episode, I just thought it was hysterical when they're having the meeting. Zavari's explaining that the xenomorph is loose and they got to go capture it. And, and Morrow's freaking out. He's like, I don't trust any of you. Only I have a gun. Zavari has a gun and Clem has a gun. And all you hear is Abizo in the background go, why do we even have guns? That was a great line because I'm sure that people will be like, yo, this is a research vessel. Why do they have guns? But, there's a security officer. They do got to protect it. It does make sense. But I thought that line was hysterical.
I thought it was also kind of funny that they used the term or the phrase, we're running on fumes. And she's like, what does that mean, running on fumes? And I was like, I don't know why she wouldn't know what that is. The only thing I could think of is like, is she old enough, or rather like was born maybe late enough that like Earth doesn't use fossil fuels anymore. So like running on fumes wouldn't be like common parlance. I just thought it was funny. I don't know if that was just like a little nod to like the timeline that the story is happening, but that just kind of made me laugh a little bit because I was like, that seems like something she would know what it was.
It's a very common phrase there, Abizo, but I thought the same thing. But the only thing was like maybe she was just trying to get a number, like what does running on fumes mean number wise for fuel. But either way, still, she was a goofy character for who I thought was going to be the smart, rock, logical side of the ship.
Yeah, now that's Morrow has that market completely cornered.
Oh yeah,
dominated.
He's the
you
king.
Could say. Okay, I believe that's going to be the end of this discussion. So that's episode 5 of Alien Earth. We'll be back next week with episode 6. There will likely be 3 of us once again. We've kind of been dodging and weaving each other almost, but the coverage is going to continue. Part of the reason why I'm fairly confident that the 3 of us will be continuing on each episode is that our other podcast, so Binge Empire, is just one of the podcasts underneath the Bingetown TV network. The other podcast that we have that we really focus on is called The Core, where we cover all things Apple TV Plus. And Luke and I are currently winding down on Foundation Season 3. So that'll end next week, and then we'll pretty much be Alien Earth guys full time. But if you're watching Foundation or you're watching anything over on Apple, if you've seen Severance, Silo, Your Friends and Neighbors, The Studio, and everything in between, we're probably covering it over on The Core. So if you like our coverage of Alien Earth, be sure to head on over and check us out over at The Core, all things Apple TV Plus. And then also Binge Empire, more than just Alien Earth. So we're doing Dexter Resurrection right now. Probably, I wouldn't even say probably, the hottest TV show in the world at the moment. I know it's number 1 on the IMDb charts. And then after Alien Earth, after Dexter, what's next for Binge Empire? Gen V. So if you're a fan of The Boys and you're a fan of Gen V and you're a fan of the podcast, why not stick around and check out our coverage of Gen V at the end of this month, the end of September. And that's all I got. That's all the advertising we got. If you want to support us, if you like what you heard, the best way to do so is going to be to like, subscribe, follow on anything that you're watching or listening on. And then if you want to converse even more, like I mentioned at some point throughout the episode, the Discord, I would say, is the best way to do that. That is bingetowntv.com, bingetowntv.com/Discord. You can join up. We're talking about all the Alien Earth episodes. We're talking about all the Dexter episodes. We're talking about all the Foundation episodes. We're talking about Big Brother 27. We're talking about Survivor. We're talking about pretty much everything in between. So if you like the conversation, then you want to join us over at bingetowntv.com/Discord. For the final time, we are Binge Empire. And thank you so much for listening.